been other things that haven't been on the up and up. I mean, the athletic participation.
Oh, yeah. Were there?
A lot of like, there'd be some big checks.
Well, sorry.
I'm going to call this meeting of the Monongalia County Board of Education to order. All rise to the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Going to start tonight's meeting with a moment of silence for Charles Edmund Ed Collins, a former administrator who died on August 8th, 2022. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Do we have any delegations?
We do not.
Thank you. Superintendent, reports, discussions, follow-up action.
Yeah, Mr. President, first this evening, we would like to present to you the Excel Edition design selection that we're going to recommend. We're going to have our architects from Williams and Shriver share that with you, and the superintendent's going to recommend that the board adopt the presented design for the Excel Center.
Awesome, thank you.
So do you want to move in second so we can have him present?
I'll move.
A second.
All in favor?
No. Yeah. Hopefully not. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're up.
We'll turn off the lights if that's okay. Give them a second. Stop, so that everybody can see this a little bit better. Based on our discussion with the design committee, we were looking at providing an addition at the Excel Center. That would be about 12,000 square feet. That would have a little bit of renovation over here in the high school where we'd be tying in the mechanical room. We would have very little renovation to the middle school, and we would be infilling between the two areas with the removal of the metal building toward the front of the current site. We would be adding a kind of a general office area here, or a calming room up toward the front. We would have a pre-K classroom and a couple smaller elementary-sized classrooms. We would infill with a larger PE space that would be utilized by all, and then we'd have a STEM space towards the back of the facility. We'd have a new entrance towards the front that would be utilized by majority of everybody. We'd also have a secondary entrance here if needed, and then we'd kind of have corridors separating everything along with some points that would allow the center to be kind of separated between your high school, your elementary school, and your middle school. We looked at various options. The initial program added a lot more square footage that, once we sat down with the selection committee, was outside of the initial budget. So we reviewed options, and the one that they selected was to provide this one, along with having individual toilets in the elementary classrooms. We have been informed that Mr. Campbell has worked with MUB and has got them to agree to allow us to utilize the existing toilets in this area, because we'll be offsetting the load, for easy to say, from pulling them from another school into this school. With this one, the total project was a little bit over $3.6 million of the total project cost. When we looked at the previous ones, a little bit larger, they were going above and beyond what was initially done. During my last presentation, there was a question about whether the middle school could be removed and considered as demolition. I did some quick numbers looking at a way to configure that, but we would be increasing the project cost by nearly $2 million. So that would be something that would be the board's decision, but I don't know at this time, based on current information that I had, it was not within your budget to be considered. So, is there any questions from the board at this time? Yes, ma'am.
So then, does your projection include fencing all around, or what kind of outdoor play space would go with the elementaries, and what kind of supervisory administrators will be there, since we're now going to have a common front entrance rather than each group individually?
I can speak to that. I mean, we have a principal on site, full-time principal, and obviously that will extend to the students that are currently there, and the elementary students, which I estimate will be about 10 or 12. And we do have a space that we are looking at for a playground for the elementary students that we will have. And of course, you know, in the future, we'd love to see the outdoor classroom, and we have a preliminary design for that, which would be available to everyone, but particularly we like that idea for middle and high school. So that's more in the front, and it also gives a great aesthetic to the entrance of the Milam Park Center. I think the entrance that we now have could be improved. But I also love the new drop-off line. So we have a new place for buses, very secure, and so that's included in our design here. So
to kind of follow in, currently buses circle between these two buildings and drop off and circle around. With us adding this elementary front here, we'd have to create kind of a loop on the front of the building coming off of Milan, so that they would all drop off at this location. And if you had parents drop off, you could have a secondary drop off, because there is a loop over here. The outdoor place that Ms. Tellerico was talking about is actually over in that location, kind of a grassy area outside, that it would be outside, kind of covered shelter for them to go out and utilize throughout the course of the year.
Pretty impressive getting that commitment from MUB that quick. Who has given us that go-ahead, and do we have that in writing?
I do have it in writing. I spoke
Perfect.
to their attorney, Jeff Ray. He just basically said that he did not believe that that would be an additional load, because the current space that will house the elementary addition already has running water and plumbing. And so this was just going to be a trade-off, and also knowing that we'd be removing those students from the Westover site, which then that takes the load off of that, which is on the same side of the river. So he was fine with doing that, and he's signed off on that, and I do have it in writing.
That's awesome. What do we do to keep the kids isolated from each other? I see the doors, but explain to me a little bit of the patterns of motion. Where's the outside play area? How does the elementary kids get to that play area without, maybe going through some
We were
other-
looking at, of course, this is already existing building. The high school has kind of their entrance here. We are creating kind of just a connector corridor back to this so that they can utilize it. And if they need to go out, they can pop out this door and continue out around the back. There is a walking trail around there. The elementary kids they of course have a little bit more access to the PE space. We have a set of doors here and a set of doors here, knowing that I think majority of the enrollment would be for the elementary would be in this location, and then another set of doors here. In the middle school, of course, they have an entrance on the side of their building here, they have an entrance here, and then another exit out the back. So we've kind of created this sectioned off corridor in the middle. This space can be utilized by both elementary and middle if there needs to be a student that is kind of pulled off to be calmed down in the middle of the day. So it's kind of, they don't go running free back into this space. Everything will be code compliant for exiting purposes, but kind of limit their access. It'll have card readers so that teachers can assist the students as they're coming and going to the space. Now, depending on the criteria, the high school students could schedule time in the PE space, which will be a lot larger than what is currently in the middle of that space. This PE space will have basketball backstops planned for each end. It'll be more of a competitive height if they wanted to go in there and shoot basketball to get a little bit more physical education in those colder months when they're limited to inside use.
What feedback did you get from the on-site staff, and how did you use that specifically, or how did that work?
Well, of course, we worked mostly with the elementary because this is an elementary addition. Thankfully, the high school and middle school have their spaces. Those were built especially for them. So this is an add-on to them and really won't impact them other than what they wanted, which is that PE space and STEM space. So that's that whole metal building that is currently there, which will be removed as it needs to be. And that will suffice to give them the same things that they basically have now. We are looking at their CTE piece for their auto repair because they do work on that, but we have, I think, more up-to-date equipment that will help with that piece as we move this forward here. So I see lots of things that can happen in that STEM room that they currently do in that area. Plus the PE space is going to be really an extra nice area.
I heard the superintendent earlier say that we have a principal on site here, and then I heard a comment just now that said that were they not asked about that space?
I
Staff that's on site?
I spoke to the principal about it, yes. I've told her what this is.
Okay. So we didn't get feedback from her, we just told her what this is. Is that what I'm hearing?
We exchanged ideas.
As those ideas were exchanged, how were they put into your design?
That's that PE space and STEM space. Ultimately, I think they would love to have the 2 extra rooms, as we all would. But the price tag for those 2 additional rooms put us way over the budget.
Is that something that is set up so that it could be added on in the future?
Yes.
I'm just seeing the squares.
Yes.
That's where they were before, correct?
Great
Yeah,
question.
the idea is to be able to still connect out here. We would have to address the addition out here, depending on how far we extended the corridor, because you would be losing a couple lighting, or a couple natural light windows. So we may have to address some new windows here, but we would be able to add out to there and still stay within the area that has like a walking track. Because there is a lane, an asphalt lane that is wide enough for a vehicle to park and another vehicle to pass on that end of the building.
And it's still doable if you were to add those additional spaces in
Yep.
the future? Okay. And the outdoor classroom and the playground are for future, or?
No, the playground will be immediately. We
Okay.
do the playground, not the architects, just like we do at every school. Now, the outdoor classroom would have to be, as money came forward. There's a lot of grants out there. We'd love to collaborate with Milan Park, for that matter, because it will improve their aesthetic as well.
Do we still have a calming room in the high school?
Oh, we have, yes.
Is there one available in the middle
Yes.
school? Okay, so all
They
three
have all of
spaces
them.
will have,
They have
Yes,
very,
sir.
a lot of good space.
Yeah, thank you. Those double doors by the general office that go down the corridor with the elementary school, I'm sorry, move your pointer up, right there. Are those going to be card access, teachers only?
Yes.
Okay, good. I thought I heard you say that, and that's good, because with the high school being so close to the elementary.
Right. So that is.
Very good idea.
The card reader access here, and back there, so that it's only
Okay,
teacher.
I just wanted to double check with that. Thank you.
Because this access would allow middle school to come and get to the backside of the PE space, and
Okay.
then the elementary students could come and get here, but limit card access so that when the middle school students are coming in, the teacher's there with them. It's not
Yeah.
free reign. But then the high school, they can come in, they can exit as needed, but they would have to have permission to enter into the PE space coordinated with.
There would have to be an adult there,
Yeah.
right. Okay, thank you.
Excellent work. Thank you. I'm going to turn your lights back on. Give you a second.
Nice. Any other questions from the board of the staff or the architect? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the Excel Edition design selection as presented, signify by aye.
Aye.
Pose the same.
It's all yours.
Thank you.
All right. So will we have to revise our time frame that you presented?
A little bit.
A little bit. but-
Based on getting approval today, I can update that and try to get you something probably towards the end of the week of a more updated schedule.
Because our goal, I know my goal, is to be in place when we open school next year.
Right. So there'll have to be some coordination of that existing metal building.
Yes.
And when it needs to be cleaned out. And
We'll have storage on site for all the things that they have, so
Yep.
we'll work with Amanda and with you.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, Superintendent.
Yeah, item B is a discussion about the property tax modernization amendment, and Mark Music, our county assessor, has graciously accepted our invitation to join the board this evening and kind of give us a little education on what this is, what it means to us as a school system, and what it means to us as a county as well. So, Mark, I'll turn things over to you, and again, thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully I have enough. I thought I did. I might have.
Yeah, give it to the board. We'll share.
I didn't know if y'all needed some too.
Thanks, sir.
I know Nicole had sent some stuff out. I'm going to do this kind of in steps, handing stuff out, just to kind of touch base. So if you can, real quickly, there is 4 amendments coming up this fall on the ballot. 2 will have impact towards education, Amendment 2 and Amendment 4. So I'd like for you to do is look at Amendment 2 on your ballot. If you haven't seen anything on how it's going to be looking from that, and just take a moment here and look over that, the top part, and I'm going to ask you a question. Okay. I was going to get that. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right, everybody read it? What stands out? What do you see in there that stands out in that wording? Is anything? Okay,
It's empty.
most people will say the word authority, okay? So for most of us who basically, I don't know upbringings, but I know my dad always told me, one thing you have in life is the right to vote. That's the one thing you do. Don't lose that. Go and do it. Well, here with Amendment 2, basically what Amendment 2 does, if it passes, we're just given the authority to current future legislation to be able to go in and make those decisions based on the machinery, equipment, inventory, and the personal property vehicles under that amendment. So we're passing over our authority to legislation to handle that in the way they feel is best, in the best interest. So, and a lot of people I've talked to, and a lot of groups we've presented to, they don't want to give up their authority. I mean, that's the one thing. They would like not to be able to pay for their vehicle. And we, as an assessors group, we're not here to say we don't want you to pay for your vehicle. It's not that we don't want you to. It'd be great. We're looking at the impact that this amendment could have, not just presently, but down the road. Because here's the thing, there's states that have had this taken off, now they're trying to put it back on. Because the money they were promised on the backfill, the state took it back. So now you're struggling. So, you know, we have entities, and I have some numbers too to hand out to y'all, and I think Nicole was part of the one packet. But the West Virginia Center for Budget and Policy have done a nice job in putting together some data, and they're actually having another session tomorrow in Bridgeport that I'm going to. And it's just eye-opening on how much. You know, we conducted our numbers from here, and you may have seen, looking at 25 million that would be lost as a whole. Education, I think, was around 17 or 18 million. Is what we looked at there. We included our TIFs, we included all the excess levies we have. So how do we get that money back? Well, legislation has told us we're going to backfill. And that's great to hear, but we're asking for perpetuity, not just 1 year, 2 years. We want to know down the road here what's going to happen, because that's the one big source of county government is those taxes that we're counted on, and they're dedicated, and so we know we get them. And to have to wait on the state to say we don't have enough money, how do you pick it up? You know, that's the concern we have as an association. Like I said earlier, not that we don't want people not to have to pay. We're in the middle as an education group, is what we're doing. We're trying to educate individuals, groups, on what this amendment is from what we've gathered in our meetings. We've been sitting through this for 5 or 6 years. If you recall, there was SJR 7 way back when. I've been part of this group with our association since then. So we've been going back and forth with Senate to give us a plan so we can see. To this day, which is what, August 23rd, we have yet to see a plan. Now, I got a feeling they're going to come out with a plan, but just something to appease everyone, just to show them that we have. But they have yet to say how they're going to keep that money coming in. We're looking at over $570 million per year right now to backfill counties. So just in a budget standpoint in West Virginia, you got to at least come up with that. That doesn't take in consideration public utilities. Right? Public utilities will be another factor that will come into play on this, that possibly could be around another $150 million. Then we're researching, there was a case regarding railroads, and I think they may fall into this entity also. We're trying to get that, and if that's the case, if they fall under that, under the federal side, they would also be standing there with their hands out saying, it's part of us too. So this thing of 570-some million could drastically increase to 700, 800 million is what's needed. So that's that part of it. Is that, and I think for most folks, they don't want to give up their authority. You know, they like what they do because they know down the road if they want to put this back on, it doesn't come back to the voters. It's at their will. And when you're doing it, and if you think about it, every 2 years we have 100 positions that come up that could be changed. So you're going to have new legislation coming in, new thoughts, and how does this get established? But I want to give you some of the numbers here, so you can look at, because we've actually broken it down with the levies, and that gives you a better idea on where our money goes.
Thank you.
We actually, our group compiled the overall numbers from the state. There was 4 of us, and I give a lot of credit to our assessor in Randolph County, Phyllis Yoakum, and she worked with GST, which is Global Science. They do all of our, basically a lot of the work in the county for the numbers. We actually came very close to what the state ran too from the state tax department. When years before, we were so far wide between us and what the state had. This year, we were very close. Actually, for Mon County, for our numbers compared to the state, I think we were off $68 in our difference. So, but if you look at these numbers, I have a couple extra ones. Anybody want to? But if you look, and what we've done is we've taken each category a heading on what they would be looking at under the business personal property. Which, if you've been reading and following up, you've got machinery and equipment inventory underneath that. Then there's furniture, fixtures, computer equipment, and leasehold improvements. So as you can see, what we did was we based this off of 21, our 21 tax year, because it's pretty much just closed from that sense. So we were able to pull the majority of those numbers to be consistent. And we did it by the municipalities and the county on the front page. So as you look at the top, you can see with the personal property, one there. You can see going across from each category. There, we did the assessed value, then at the end we did the tax dollars. Because to us, that's the important side, is how much money we would be losing to look at how much needs to be backfilled. So as you can see through each of those municipalities, based on their levy rates for 21, you go across, those are their assessed values for that year, and out from that is the tax dollars that were generated in 21. Those are the tax dollars that we were looking to replace. So as you can see, the total, $7,317,000 is what we have there on that side. And as you go down each of these categories, you've got computer equipment. As you can see, it's not as much. Then you come down to machinery and equipment, which is a good amount on that side. The inventory. So when you go down to the bottom of the page there, the totals, $24,552,000. So that's where we're at that point, based on our 21 that we generated as a county. So go ahead and calculate in with the schools, and you'll get an idea of what yours is. Or even better, just flip it over to the second page, and you'll see the breakdown on what we did, which gives you a little bit more of an idea. So we did the school current, excess, and bond. And we did the 4 excess levies. We also included them in there because there's an impact with that, with the park and rec, libraries, transportation, and the volunteer fire department, which is money based on their levies that could be lost through that. So we wanted to give them everything that we possibly could and that we had for them to look at. So from our end, we've worked with them. So we haven't been working against them. We've given them the numbers as they've asked for them to run. I can say this, though, from a standpoint of over the weekend, if you hear this, it's not true. I know the one senator has been broadcasting that the assessors and the county commissioners are in support of this, and we have not come out to say anything as for support. So he shared that at a couple big town hall meetings, and also a couple things that somebody was asked about numbers regarding TIFs. And basically, he said, well, we didn't supply them with the TIF, so go back and blame your assessors for that. So he's at the point now where he's struggling to come up with anything that's positive, so he's just going on the negative side. So disregard anything that you may read from Senator Tarr from that end, because it's incorrect at this point in time. And again, as we're trying to work with them, okay, on this. But there's any questions on the numbers here? Yes.
No, I think your numbers are pretty jarring, and I have no reason to think they're not accurate. So my question would be, So the way this amendment is written, every year the legislature would have to direct how this amendment was enforced? I mean, or would they, I guess that's what I'm saying, because now, every year, for instance, we have to vote on the percentage that we're going to levy. We have to vote and approve everything that comes from your office and the state as far as school monies, all that. So would the legislature have to do that every year? Because this gives them, this amendment, if passed, gives them the power and authority, but they would not necessarily have to do that every year, correct?
Right.
So you'd like to think that if it became obvious they could not backfill it, that they would not enact it. But we all know it's pretty hard to go back once you've done something without.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what they've told us in meetings is that they have buckets of money. It's there. This is the time to do it. And we're sitting there thinking 600 million to 800 million a year to do this. And what happens if you have a slip? You know, where's that money coming from? How's it going to be generated in order to come back here to reimburse? Now you have counties, you have 38 counties that are maxed at their levy. So let's say one of those counties, they can't fill them, so how's that county going to generate their revenue? They can't go any higher, you know, for their county levy. So what do? And those may be some of the smaller ones. You know, Mon County, for example, just became, I think, the lowest county levy in the state. I think we were second or third. I think now it's the lowest. Basically, I think that's what I saw. So, room to grow, but that's not been the facet of where we wanted to go right now. And,
So, I mean, what would have to happen from a commissioner level, I guess I just want to be clear on all this. If they wanted to support everything they're supporting now the same way, if the state did not backfill these dollars that didn't come, they would have to raise the rate on something in order to create these funds for our county necessities, if you will.
yeah, I mean, you would think, yes, I can't answer for them, but you got to replace the money somehow, some way, right?
So that would be our only choice also as a board, is to maybe raise the levy rate in some way to create enough income to somewhat offset the loss. I don't think we would ever be able to raise the percentage enough, because we capped the percentage, I want to say 73%.
Just renewed our excess levy, and we're in the first year, so it'll be up in 2027, 2028.
So there's really no way for us to try to recapture any of that for the schools, because we've already had a voting referendum.
Right. And you think about this, if this were to pass in November, nothing says it goes in effect for next year. My guess would be they would have to sit, come up with their plan, meet with new legislation, and go over it. That's my thought, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't do that. They may just jump right in and say, hey, this is what we promised us, we're going to do this. So is it effective right in the middle of the budget?
They're working on that legislation right now, for sure. The question I have, what's the potential benefits of this for the state?
Potential benefits, as we've been told in meetings, that this will generate 400,000 people coming to West Virginia over a course of time. My question is, where's 400,000 people going to come to West Virginia?
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I mean, a lot of these funds are used for infrastructure, which if we're going to have 400,000 people here, how are we going to be able to support that infrastructure?
I mean,
is my question.
No, that's what we hear, and it's that if this is eliminated, this business personal property is eliminated, more business are going to come. But if you really take a look at West Virginia over the past few years, and you look at some of the other counties, we've had some large businesses that have come into this state. It wasn't worried about tax, they're worried about location. I mean, if you look at Nucor down in Mason County, they primarily came there because of the location and the proximity to the other cities. Is what they were looking for. You know, we've got a large thing going over at the industrial park at Mountaintop Beverage. You have Procter & Gamble that came in. You got Toyota that's investing more money. Businesses are coming to West Virginia because it's cheap. I think in the last rankings, we were 9th as a business climate, I think is what came out. So, and the only closest surrounding state to us was Ohio, and I think they were 6th. So everybody else is North Dakota and those states. So the businesses are coming, and they're just trying to say from an impact, you're going to gain more businesses come in because of that tax.
Mark, do they have any data from other states that have tried this, where they've seen?
I've got some
where they've
stuff.
seen an influx of business coming in by doing this? Because I wouldn't see any data that would support that.
One thing I do
Tennessee,
have, I
I
just
think.
received, later seen, so I didn't get a chance to.
Tennessee
get a lot.
was supposedly one of the states. Tennessee was supposedly one of the states.
There's one section here that states that have eliminated this tax lost manufacturing businesses. It seems to be more states that have it gained more manufacturing businesses. Go figure. You know, it's the opposite, basically, of what it is. And we're hoping tomorrow with the budget and policy that they've compiled a little bit more data, because they've been working on that, and Kelly and them do a nice job. I can tell you this, there are 11 states that still have the full business personal property. All right, we're one of 11 that have machinery, equipment, and inventory that's taxed. There are 24 or 25 that have machinery and equipment. So as a whole, there's still 35 states that have this that they tax. You may hear different when legislation presents, because they always say there's only a handful of states left that have this. They've never referenced to the whole M&E and inventory. They just say that as a whole. But there's actually 34, 35 states that tax this. And I will have this information for you, so I'll be able to get it out to you. Like I said, it just came in later, so I didn't get a chance to run. But I found some of it very interesting, that most tax yeah, we were 9th. Business property tax rankings for 22. West Virginia was 9th. Ohio phased out their business personal property tax, leading to a significant loss of manufacturing jobs. So, and that's been kind of the model we've been trying to look at to gain a little bit of information. So they phased out their business personal property, and they lost manufacturing jobs. States with business inventory and equipment taxes have had more manufacturing job growth than states without. Again, this information I'll get to come out to you. I'll have that submitted to you. But it was good information, and what I'm hoping tomorrow is, I think what they're going to present is probably going to be very similar to what Kelly sent me. So I think she did it as a package just to give me an idea, Kelly Allen. So, but to answer your question, that's it right there. We don't know of other ones. I think Illinois or one of the other states had something there, but like I said, a lot of that stuff was just coming in for us to start comparing. But I found that odd that some of those states that don't have it gain more. I mean, are losing, whereas the ones that still have it are gaining more businesses in with it. So the advantage, do you get more businesses? You know, no one's really. You know, I know when people have dropped income tax and stuff like that, do people still come into those states? If you got a lot of tourism, probably. I mean, Florida and those states that don't have it, they get more. I know Kansas did their income tax. They eliminated it, but it didn't work. But, you know, some people say, who would want to go to Kansas? And even though you don't have any income tax, who would want to go there? So for here, this amendment is something that stands out from a standpoint of lost revenue, that we don't have a great plan on how it would be replaced. That's the concern we have right there. And could they put it on the real estate? You know, some states moved their business stuff over to real estate. You know, they went that way. Could the assessed value be changed? You know, our assessed value is 60%. You know, legislation they have that authority with a 2/3 vote, so they can, that's not coming back to a vote. They already have that luxury if they needed to do that. You got a lot of money to make up, and a lot of deficiencies in the state. I mean, they have talked about the teachers. They've talked about, you know, National Guard being in the regional jails to help out, because there are 900 and some positions that are open for that. EMS, ambulance services here, I know they've been presented that in our county, fire departments, and again, teachers. We're losing teachers within our state with things, so to me, there's other areas, I think that money that they have is sitting there to be utilized for at this point in time, and to rethink it a little bit on how this may be done. Because I think when you start looking at the numbers, and I think they are from a standpoint of saying it's a lot of money that we have to go back, but then again, the concern is if it passes, then you get, say, down the road so many years, and all of a sudden the well runs real dry. What do we do? What do we do? And so does it really make a savings for our individuals that live here every day? That's my thing. If it's going to benefit our taxpayers that live in West Virginia every day and have paid into this thing every year, that's who you want to take care of. I'm not against business, not whatsoever. I think it's wonderful. But the majority of those large businesses aren't housed here as living. Our mom and pop businesses are here, and those are the ones that you would want to take care of from that facet. And it does affect our TIFs. Because, we have, our TIFs are made up of real estate also too, but we have two bigger TIFs that we get a lot of personal property. They get a lot of that from, and that's our industrial park and University Town Center. So how's those affect those bonds, which are 30-year bonds? So it's a lot to think about, but we're in a short amount of time. I think we're, 73 days until election, somewhere around there. So, we've been out a lot since June, trying to just do the same thing here. And we have just good roundtable discussions, and a lot of people just ask those questions. Where's the money coming from? That's what they want to know. Where's it coming from? Because we know if it's taken, it's got to be replaced. And am I going to end up paying for this group to save here? And those are things we can't answer because we don't know that right now.
I know years ago, we used to have a state B&O tax on businesses, and they eliminated that. The cities kept their B&O tax, but the state eliminated theirs. That might be something to look back on that time frame and see how that worked out for them, because it was kind of the same, or I know it doesn't affect your office, the B&O side of it. But that might be something to look back and see how that time frame, how the budget went after that.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
if-
it's.
I liked it as far as, because I was still in
Right.
business, and that we pay that on the gross sales, so we can actually lose money on selling widgets, and still pay that B&O. So it was a good thing because it was an unfair tax anyway, but it eliminated that. But that would be interesting to see how the states, how they recovered from that, if they did.
Well, a lot of people aren't aware that there's an amendment coming up on the ballot, more or less 4 coming up on the ballot. So when you just bring to their attention, here's the information, just look at it before you go in there and try to read it, just to give yourselves a little tutorial there in the sense of studying it. And especially when you got Amendment 2 and Amendment 4 that are impacts.
One thing we want to be careful is that the Senator Tarr, I haven't listened to what he said about this, but I'm sure he's not trying to destroy the state of West Virginia. He has plans and he has ideas, so we want to be careful not to try. Both sides of this argument are going to have valid points, and those points are going to be how we're going to make West Virginia better.
Right.
There's parts of this state that's not like not like Monongalia County.
No, and it's not.
They're trying to figure out anything they can do. And those developments we're talking about, they're giving them massive tax benefits to pull those people in. Massive tax benefits. And this is just a tax benefit they're trying to figure out how to even this stuff out. The one thing I'm going to caution this board on is we cannot have an opinion on this at all. We are not allowed as board members to sit here at this table and have an opinion. The only thing we can do is become informed voters.
Mm-hmm.
And give you the opportunity to come here and talk tonight. But as far as this board taking action on it, we cannot do that. Board members saying, and even during our board comments, we can't comment on this. This is something that Howard Super has been very clear.
Well, and that's why we haven't come
This
out to
is the
say
case.
yes or no.
Yeah.
So for someone to come out and say that we are in support, we at least have to say, no, we haven't said that. I mean, that's false information that makes it look like okay, well, we're here, we're there, then if something else comes out and it's different, it's like, you know, we've worked long with them. We've had meetings with the center, so we're not against them, by no means. I'm just saying, want
Here's the
people to be
facts.
aware that this is where we're at. I mean, because I get those questions a lot. So where you guys stand? Well, we haven't really, we're still having our meetings and coming up with questions and talking points that can go back to legislation and say, hey, here's what we have. Where's this coming from? Or what do you have here? You know, going back and forth. But then I've gotten calls saying, well, you guys are now doing this because that's what I heard. I said, no, I mean, it starts at turmoil. And again, yeah, we're not in the position, like I always tell people, they've asked me, so are you a yes or a no? I said, I'm here to educate. I'm not going to go out, I'm not going to go out in public and say, vote for it or don't vote for it. That's not going to be me. I'm going to say, this is what it is. This is the information we've received. And I think it's important for our role as county elected officials, especially in the position of our office, to let people know this is what it is. Because my take on it is, if I'm not out informing people, I think shame on me for not doing my due diligence. Just to let them know. Because there's a lot of people like, tell me what it is, or what is the amendment, you know, I didn't even know it was on. I'm like, I know when I go in to vote, if I see an amendment and I didn't know it was on there, yeah, you know, you try to read it and go through that and you don't understand. At least this way you get a little bit of information, and it's your decision when you go in to vote. I mean, if it comes out either way, it comes out that way, then, you know, but for me to publicly come out in this, that's not my point. That's not my point for accepting the invite here and to the other groups I've spoke at, is to say, okay, hey, we're here to educate. This is what we do.
We really appreciate your time.
Any other questions? I will get more information out to you as it comes, and hopefully tomorrow will be some good information, data, which I'm hoping that's what they're going to produce. Tomorrow is a lot of data just for people to look at.
Mark, anything you pass on to Nicole, I'll make sure our board members get the information as well.
Sure.
Yep.
I will do that.
We certainly appreciate you spending time with us
Yes,
tonight.
thank you, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Superintendent?
Yes. Item C is the Project Bike Tech Standards that we will ask the board to adopt this evening. In your executive content, you should have received the Project Bike Tech overview, the information on the program and what those standards are. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the Project Bike Tech Standards as presented to you this evening.
Need a motion?
So
moved.
moved. Oh, second. I'll second you.
Okay. Discussion? I learned this stuff the hard way.
I'm
When I
sure.
was a kid.
This is a little bit fancier, but I'm sure either Sandy or Donna could address any questions that the board might have.
Well, we have this program at University High. One of our teachers is teaching it. He had a period that he wanted to do. Again, this is through a grant. It's pretty exciting. He was taken to Colorado for training by the company this summer for 2 or 3 days. It is, I believe, the first period in the schedule, of his daily schedule. And we've arranged an area. It's the bike tech area. And we hope to build on it. We don't have a lot of students right now. Sandy, I don't know if you know how many, but we were looking at about 12 to 15, I think. But we'd like to see the program grow a little bit more. Like to see it at our other high school, frankly. Space is an issue. You do need a little bit more space because you've actually set up a bike workshop. But for it to be considered, what we're trying to do is get it under the CTE standards as well and give credit for that. So that's our first steps into doing that, and we have to have the board's approval on those standards in order to proceed.
Any questions?
I don't see anything on here about a unicycle.
Yeah, where's Mike Shana?
Nancy?
Do you foresee this, this to me seems like the type of program would be great at the Alternative Learning Center. Actually, because it's manageable, you don't need a,
I'd love to see that in
bigger
that STEM room. We've talked about that, actually. So I think it's a perfect fit there. I mean, and electric bikes are what everybody's talking about and utilizing, and I think we need to be involved, and our students are really responding.
Yeah, my hat's off to this teacher.
Yes.
I mean, this is impressive. I mean, this is
I
something
agree.
we need more of in all 3 high schools.
I would agree.
I love the Standard 16, the entrepreneurship and finance.
Yes.
'Cause we can teach, you can go out and do this, but if you want to open your own shop, you got to know the other part of that. So
Absolutely.
it's great that that's in there too.
Especially with the direction our county is going with the BMX track and the connector trails, and, I mean, we have the potential and the vision to become a bike city, so there's no
Absolutely.
reason, I mean, this is great.
Excellent idea.
All right, all in favor of the project bike standards as presented signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Just a brief side note on that. Jen, that's exactly the reason why these folks reached out to us, was because of Monongalia County and Morgantown's status in the biking world. And we will be the first and only Project Bike Tech in the state of West Virginia right now. So this is our baby for the moment. So.
I will continue to be our baby being first.
Absolutely.
You're already first.
All right, we're down to our communications update, and Teresa's going to brief the board on some things that she's been working on lately out of her office. So, Teresa?
This is just. Okay, just a quick update. We're streamlining some of our processes. Some of the documents that would typically go home with students at the beginning of the year, we're now putting on the website. So although some of those forms will be going home, everything will be accessible year-round now on the website. So some of those would be the safety and emergency drill information, the pesticide application notification form, dress code policy, the health information, and before and after school contact information. So that's all on the Monongalia County Schools website, as well as the school sites. So that's it.
Well, I just want to add, and I told you this before the meeting, but I want to make it official. This is a vast improvement, the website. You've done a wonderful job. That Comic Sans train wreck that existed before was just, I thought, an embarrassment, and you've done a marvelous job. So hats off to you.
Thank you. There's a lot more than me going into it. So it was a great team effort, and it's ongoing. So thank you. Any questions on what's on the website, or have you looked through it to see if there's anything that could be improved upon at this point by anyone?
Again, I just want to encourage all board members that as you go through the website and look at things and see things, it's kind of overwhelming when you think about all the material that is housed in a school system's website. So there's always going to be an oversight someplace. You're never going to get it perfect, but when you see something, let us know. And I know Teresa's very good about almost instantaneously making corrections to things that aren't what they need to be. So don't ever hesitate to send me an email, call me, send me a text, let me know what we need to update or fix, and we'll get that taken care of right away, because as Mr. Barry said, we want to be proud of our website and put our best foot forward. So.
Absolutely.
Consent agenda?
Yes, we are down to our consent agenda. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Item 7, the approval of a purchase order technology for middle and high schools, Nintendo Switch and Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, $12,300 of levy money. Correct me if I'm wrong, is that a gaming system?
It is.
And And we're spending $12,000 for a gaming system?
It's for all of our middle and high schools.
And kids would be playing this during school time?
Yes, but not, it's not a game. It is part of their building their skills in technology. It's not like the Nintendo necessarily that we might play at home, but it is that platform, and it is building their skills in that area. That's kind of the same thing that we're doing at the same platform for the e-gaming class that we're doing. We started this year. They have a similar platform that is actually an educational. So they do have an educational platform that is part of the framework for what we're trying to do to engage our students and yet have them use it in a way that is advancing their skills. But you have to engage them, and certainly this engages them. And it does go across all the middle and high schools. I can get you more information, more details.
Mr. Barry, you remember,
Yeah.
I don't remember if you had a chance to see the presentation that our students from Brookhaven did. They did I think it was a year-long.
So are these
project.
educational?
Yes.
programs?
Oh, yes,
I mean, they're
sir.
not like
Oh,
Donkey
no.
Kong or something. You gotta help me out here, because I was never really into that stuff anyway, so I just want a verification.
Now, if you heard the word.
Excuse my ignorance on
No,
that,
no,
but when
no,
I
no.
see Smash Brothers.
Yes.
And it just raised a red flag.
If
for
you
me.
heard the word Minecraft, I mean,
Yes.
that's what the kids at Brookhaven used
Yes.
to make, literally,
To build
all
Brookhaven.
across every grade level, built their school.
Okay,
Yeah,
I feel a
so-
little better now then.
I'll get you some more detailed information.
Okay, I would appreciate that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
when I read that this weekend, I thought,
Yes.
I snuck into Bridget Barlow's classroom over at MTech,
Okay.
and that is ridiculous how nice that's set up for these kids, and that's exactly what it is. It is the future of entertainment. It's the future of video games, and our kids, I think, did they have, how many kids they have?
Right,
Eight-ish? No,
yeah.
there's 10.
About 10 right now. And we're still building that classroom. We want
Wow,
more
that's
interest. And as soon as the students find out more about it, I think we'll have to add a second class. But it's equipped, I'd love for everyone to see it. It's equipped at state-of-the-art. And indeed, it is. It's building their skills, and they're going to have fabulous jobs. If they can do this e-gaming and master that, the job market out there is open-ended for them.
Are these switches going to her classroom, or are they going to different
No,
schools?
they're going to
And if
different
they go
schools.
to different schools, is there somebody who knows what to do with them when they get there?
Yes, and we're building that capacity. Not everyone has the skills of Bridget, but we're trying to emulate that so that you don't have to leave your school to go to MTech. Right now, it's offered for the high schools to come in, and our outreach is to get to those middle schools too, not necessarily bring them in, but to do it through this channel.
Is part of Bridget's job is to go to the middle schools
Yes.
or the high schools? Or
She will, to help them do some of this,
Okay.
absolutely. So,
She's excited.
she's fabulous, and
Yes,
it's
she's
going to be
very good at this.
it's going to be great. We'll feature it here for you all.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Down the line.
okay. Well, thank you for indulging my ignorance on that, because
It does sound like.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. All in favor of the consent agenda as presented signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Superintendent?
Okay, item number 6, we have 2 contracts that I'm going to ask you to award this evening. First is item A, which is the flooring for the Morgantown High School band room. You did see in your executive content the price quotes that we received. We did receive one. That was from Carpet One with the price tag of $58,900. Superintendent recommends that the board approve that contract to Carpet One for that price.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I got Dan on a second. Any questions? All right, all in favor of the, let me get down to flooring for MHS band quote awarded to Carpet One, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
All right, item B is our diesel fuel contract. Again, we shared that information with you in your executive content. We did receive 4 bids for our diesel fuel contract. Superintendent recommends that we award this to Jacobs Petroleum Products.
Need a motion?
Before you go any further, I'll have to recuse myself from this one because I have connections with this company, so abstain. So, now you go.
All right.
Mike, if you're going to recuse
Yes, I was
yourself,
saying.
you'll have to,
I was gonna say,
you'll
we'll
have to leave.
before we.
Like that, yeah, right there's it. Right, it's up.
To-
I will so move.
Second.
Okay.
Is there, I should have asked Mike before he left, I'd assume there's no financial benefit to Mike by this.
Well, he's recusing himself, so I'm not sure.
Doesn't matter.
Really?
Yeah, as a supplier, I mean, he's not making money off his supply.
No.
No.
He
Okay, that's-
stopped,
I was just
he
gonna
used
make-
to
I mean, that's-
actually bid on this stuff before he was on the board, so, no.
I
I
need
think
to-
he
I
has a
need-
business relationship with them.
We need to be clear before we vote on this. Probably need to ask him that, but please ask him that question.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. I could recuse myself from building a school too, and they could vote for me to build a school. It's the same thing. That's why I just want to be clear. I didn't know that was the case.
Just relay the information to Jennifer. Jennifer knows what the ruling on this is.
Okay.
We've done this many times before. Sorry.
Sorry.
All right, any motion?
Okay, I had a motion on the floor, so moved.
Okay. I need a second.
Second.
Any comments, any questions? All in favor of the awarding of the petroleum contract and diesel contract to Jacobs Petroleum Products, signify aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Thank you.
right, down to board member updates. Anybody got anything?
Well, I wanted them to update us on how the first day of school went. So that's I have a question update, and then I have two other things I'd like to, I know I can make a motion to this, so I'd rather just say it. I think we need to continue to have academic update on our reports, discussion, and follow-up action. I know currently the State Department has to review all minutes of all board meetings, and you have to have at least one meeting a month. You have to have academics on there as one of your things. And I also, realizing we don't have anything pertinent right now, maybe, but I think there's other things out there. If we could just have health date update on there as a possibility, it doesn't mean we have to go into any discussion if there's nothing to discuss.
What is it?
Health. Health.
We did, I've instructed the superintendent and Beth both on the fact that we need to be very clear that we're talking about academic progress, and it needs to be a line item. I actually talked to the superintendent again today about that, and we're going to do that first meeting of every month or whatever. And it's going to be something that's a line item. So when they're looking through and trying to see our academic progress.
So you're going to put academic progress, but no, I mean, I guess.
It's going to be very clear, and that's what I've.
What's it going to say?
We'll put an academic update on there, and then we'll bring you a presentation on a monthly basis on a specific topic, or whether it's math instruction or language arts or elementary ed, or
We're doing that every meeting, so that's why I'm
Right.
asking. I guess I would like to have some kind of academic something on every meeting. I mean, theoretically, Project Bike Standards could have been it, but I just.
It'll be a standalone. It'll be a standing item, just like board updates. It'll have its own placeholder.
Oh.
Can we
Okay.
include attendance update in there so that we can track what's happening this year since we're coming off of?
That's certainly part of academics, and it's been our focus, so certainly. And again, just like that, I mean, if you all share with Mr. Lytle what it is that you're interested in hearing about, give us the notice that we need so that we can have it prepared for you, and we'll give it a placeholder. The first board meeting of each month, we'll do an academic update, and we'll talk about whether it's something you want us to choose or whether it's something that you all want to share with Mr. Lytle, and he can get that on the agenda, and that's what we'll concentrate on for that particular meeting.
Yeah, the State Department was, and they were very clear that we had done that in the past, that we always cover that, and our agendas are so thorough that we cover that. That's when I come back to Dr. Campbell, I ask him to make their job easier. We're just going to do it once a month as a line item under, I forget what we did say it was going to put it under.
It'll have its own.
It'll have its own
Yeah,
heading.
just like board updates is number 7, academic update will have its own number.
Okay, perfect. That way and then we'll push some things underneath that so we can make it a little bit easier on them to find that. But we're fulfilling what we're supposed to do, but they have to dig through it. So let's just end that.
Oh, I didn't think, because actually I had asked the question before, and I didn't think it was difficult for him to find. But I'm just saying health update because I just think we're on a weekly, you don't know what it's going to be from one minute to the next. So I just think if we just keep that available, because actually I was asking Deputy Superintendent about how schools decide which information they highlight, because I had the opportunity today being at a place where I heard a lot of people talking about, well, their school only sent home the papers maybe referring to lice, and some other school was sending home CDC, the new CDC guidelines with COVID. And then somebody else was, it was very different, and I didn't know if that was a personal decision by each school or.
Actually, we prepared, Susan Hasleybacher and the school health team prepared specific things to go home on very specific topics. So I'm not sure what else was shared by the schools, but we have a handout on, and let's just say COVID, and our protocols for this year. They are current with what the CDC is having. We do have, obviously, protocols for head lice. and other,
Vaccinations, et cetera.
all of those things. So
Okay.
we prepared that for them to share. And I'm sure that, Teresa, we could highlight all of those things that Susan prepared for our schools in the school health section on the website. So we can absolutely,
Sent me a packet.
and that is exactly what we expected the schools to send.
I just know it's different.
Yes.
Yeah,
may-
it's just the way
may-
it is. It's,
Yes,
you
it
know.
may well be.
I have a question under updates. Do the three high schools, do they still have the attendance policy with the final exams? Do we
No.
not have that this year?
We do not.
Okay. I think would be some interesting data to compare, and I think you'd have to go back to 2018-19 to compare it, to see what the attendance rates were, because anything after the 18-19 school year, you really can't compare any
You
data
can't.
with attendance. But I would like to see, without the exam in 22-23, with the exam in
Absolutely.
18-19, and see if there's a difference.
Sure.
Um,
And we do have a whole new approach this year, which I think the board would be interested in, because it's comprised of things that the schools can do to encourage attendance, but also sanctions that we need to have tighter. And I think we're all clear on that. The superintendent has given us that directive. The attendance committee has met a couple of times. We're broadening that committee right now because, again, we need to do whatever will work and get our students there and keep them engaged. But
Thank you.
Yes, for certain.
And actually, if you would want to, we can go back to the data to where we had the policy, didn't have the
That's
policy,
true.
went back to the policy,
Yes.
the
Oh,
policy went
yeah.
away. I'm just saying, I mean, there, you can see all the trends there, and I would say, both of those methods, we seem to still receive the same amount of dissatisfaction, if you will. Some of that was from families whose students refused to stay home when they were gravely ill, and some of it was from instructors in the schools who felt they were being exposed to things, and then, I mean, it's just, it seemed to have a wide variety and gamut of response, if you will. And I don't know what worked.
Nancy, just to follow up on that too, I know one of the things that we've had to face is the reality that times have changed.
Yep.
You know, we're not promoting sick students coming to school. So if a student contracts COVID, we know you're out of school for X number of days. It doesn't make a difference whether you're a straight A student or whether you never come to school. You're out for X number of days. And so, you know, there's a real change in the philosophy about saying to kids, just suck it up and come to school if you're sick. You know, it used to be if you don't have a 103-degree temperature, then you need to be at school. But it's not like that anymore. We have to be really cautious about any types of sanctions that we put on kids who are ill at some point. So, again, those are all things that the attendance committee put into play when they put this together. And the deputy superintendent's correct. I did challenge them and said that we've got to do better from an attendance standpoint. We've got to hold our kids and families accountable for coming to school. There's been a relaxation in that philosophy because of COVID, and we need to get back to where Monongalia County Schools traditionally is, with that expectations for high standards, and hold people accountable for that. So that was the challenge I issued to them. I think they've done a good job with the plan that they put together, and I think the proof will be in the pudding.
So how did school go today?
Fabulous. I got to tell you, it was fabulous. I had a chance to talk to the radio folks, TV stations today, but I happened to go out to Brookhaven this morning and got to play around out there this morning with the kids as they were coming into school, and the kids were beaming today as they were coming in. Parents were dropping their kids off, like walking up the sidewalk with their kids. They had smiles on their face. The teachers had smiles on their face. You could just tell there's a new energy as far as things go. You know, the big question everybody had coming in was, how are these weapons detectors going to work? Is that going to slow us down? Both of our big high schools allocated 30 minutes to get their kids through. We timed them. We were at both schools. We had people at both schools to time them coming through. Morgantown High School, obviously almost 2,000 kids at that school, but we were somewhere between 35 and 40 minutes, so we missed the mark by anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. That's the first day. They've never practiced. University had practiced in the spring of last year. They hit the nail on the head. They were 30 minutes getting everybody in to the building, in class, on time for instruction. So I know Morgantown will get quicker as the kids learn more about it. There were videos out at both high schools to show the kids how it works, how to come through it, what to expect. So that went really smoothly. I couldn't have asked for more from that standpoint. A couple hiccups maybe with buses, but not nearly as what I'm accustomed to seeing with bus runs. Tony's worked very hard to get those things cleaned up. That worked out great. We met at 3 o'clock in this room with the administrative staff to get reports back from every building. Donna designs a plan that sends administrators out to every building in the county to observe the opening and the operations of the schools during the day. They come back and they report out to us. I usually tell them I don't want to hear about all the good things. I just want to hear where we screwed up so we can fix it. But all I get is the good stuff. But we had one or two things that they mentioned that we need to get cleaned up. But for the most part, it was a great day for the schools. Everybody was glad to be back, and I don't think I could have been happier with it.
Yeah. Dr. Kim, I have a question. I'm just curious as how the weapons detection works. Are we having teachers or are those principals checking bags?
Both.
And the teachers, do they lose any of their planning time doing that?
No.
They don't lose any of their,
No.
if they have like a first period plan or a second period plan, with a block, first block plan.
They may
So they're
have a
not losing-
duty. They do. They lose some of that time to do a duty, but, I mean, teachers all over the county do some duties. Now, I think it's,
Yeah, but I don't know if they do duties during their planning period, do they?
well, but, no, they don't do duties during their
Okay.
planning period, no. And if that's where we're having a hiccup, I'll check into that,
Yeah.
for sure. But,
Yeah, because I don't think teachers should be doing that during their planning.
well, they shouldn't give up their planning time.
And if they do, they're reimbursed, correct? And that's through mutual agreement?
We can do that, yes, we can do
Okay.
that.
Is there a group, like, I'm just thinking that's a lifetime of Manning mornings. Is there a group, like, I don't know why RASPA comes to my head because they do the crossing guards, but is there a group like them that we could hire out to be there in the mornings, a couple people a day? I don't know, just to take
would-
that burden off the schools and. what
That
they're
would be
doing.
great. Honestly, as far as RASP, that's all I can speak
I
to.
don't know why, yeah.
No, they're great on
I
our
don't know if they
outside
do
duties.
that, but-
They do the outside.
Right.
And we just barely have enough to do the outside duties. So we found one for Brookhaven because they didn't have one. So, but someone like that, if it is planning period time, we do extra duty compensation or mutual agreement types of things. So I need to check further into that. But I know that during the school day, that folks can, we do duties all the time, every teacher, administrator. Right now, it just takes so many hands that just the administrators and the SROs can't get all the children through. I think it will get better here, so I'd like to give it a week or so and look into it, and then I'll have an answer for that.
Okay, thank you, Donna.
My turn. Yep. You're up.
MPO, we had our meeting last Thursday, and MPO had received a grant, I should say 3 MPO, MMMPO. They received a raised grant, and that will fund the study of the Greenbank Road pretty much on both ends of it. Bad intersection where it connects Don Knotts Boulevard, turning it to go up the hill and all. So anyway, it was a huge grant and a nice deal. Good feather in the cap, so hopefully we can get some studies done on that, and because we're kind of looking at fixing the road in the middle, but it still needs to be some study done on each end of it, so to speak. The other thing is we are meeting now at the courthouse because the city hall downtown is going to be closed for I think a year, somebody had said. So I got this brilliant idea. I contacted the superintendent and said, is this room available? Because we meet on the third Thursday every other month. So he said didn't see any problem with that. So I volunteered our meeting room so that our MPO could meet here if we wanted, because I wanted to showcase our new facilities and everything, which brought me to another thought, is I think we should do an open house for the public, maybe an hour before one of our board meetings in the future, once we get this room finished, maybe in October or whatever, do an open house, because I've had several people ask me about the facility. I think that'd just be, I mean, the taxpayers are paying for it, they should have a chance to go through it and see how nice it is, and it's working well, so. Anyway, I'll volunteer to our room with, hopefully we'll be able to use it, because it's a great place to have what we do, because this would be the same setting.
You should have your new board table in October.
Yes.
That's why I was saying, let's wait till we're finished, and then we'll open all of that too.
I'll catch up on broadband next time. We're just going to start meeting again Friday, and then it's moving forward quite rapidly. So we'll just let that go for this one. So there. Superintendent policies. Unless Jen.
I'm good.
I will say, Jen did attend the Milan Park Foundation Board meeting that we both were at, so she was there, bright-eyed and bushy.
Taking it all in.
A lot to take in, right? Yeah. All right, first policy up tonight that you'll see for the first time is Policy 2215, the required courses of instruction. Jennifer, would you like to touch base with the board on what we're going to do here?
Sure. This is a required, this is a new policy, but not all of the content is new. It's just a proposed new policy. And this reflects newer legislation that includes more specific instruction on the institutions and structure of American government. So this does include some content that was already required and then adds on from the newer legislation. And there were no optional items in this proposed policy.
So does this hook on to something else? Or is this is presented as a standalone?
Yes.
So this is under the social studies?
No, it also includes health, education.
So what prompted this? So these things were not included in any other?
It was Senate Bill 636. So it required some very specific government instruction. So the policy's there just to be sure that all of that is included. It's pretty specific in what the instruction is.
Why does our policy include private parochial and denominational schools?
That's what it just mirrors what the code says.
And I wonder, are we responsible now of ensuring that since it's in our code? Is that why is that even in our book? Why would there?
The state code says we have to.
Huh?
We're passed through, for example, Title I monies, we provide to the private schools. That's a legal requirement. So Norma Gaines, who's our director, has to meet with them. So does Tiffany Barnett, the director of exceptional students, special education on the federal dollars. We have a yearly meeting, and they are entitled to, now they can say yes or no. They can say no. In several of the private schools, they don't want the oversight that the federal government brings with that. But if they say yes, then they're entitled to a portion of that money. And we provide that. So we are a pass-through for that.
This doesn't put any obligation on this board to say that it's required to make sure that those schools are teaching it.
So we don't have any requirement whatsoever or authority whatsoever?
Not for
Which is-
this.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Just making sure that us putting that in there didn't put us in some kind of a supervisory or...
But if we didn't have it in there, Jennifer, we would be in violation of the state code, correct?
Well, it's not a required policy. The language mirrors the code as
Right.
many of the policies do, yes.
Okay. So if there's no other questions about that one,
So let's move on.
we'll bring that one back to you for first reading at our next board meeting. Next up is policy 2432, driver education. Jennifer, what's the updates here?
This is, the updated language is what's shown in green and underlined on the first page. And basically what this does is coincides with West Virginia Board of Education policy 2422.2, and that's an update on the accident reporting when you have an accident involving a driver's education vehicle, and then the additional reporting if there's an injury to an employee or student. Now, the other options that are shown here is what we currently have in the policy. So where you see that there's the option where the board-owned driver education vehicle may or may not, that's how our policy currently reads, is that it may be used for purposes in addition, and then the following purposes, and we have checked off school or district business. That's what's currently in the policy.
So the board-owned vehicles, would that include the leased vehicles? Or a dealer says, here, go, you can use this car for driver's education. Do you think, doesn't sound to me like it covers the leased, it would just be the ones that the board owns?
Right. I don't think we would lease any vehicles.
Well, I
for
know that we
driver
would, but I'm saying if we,
And that has happened not here, but you're
Right.
exactly right. Many districts do that, Mike.
I know some, years ago, the dealers would donate a car
Yes,
to
absolutely.
use, so I'm sure it would be $1 a piece or something just to get the legality part of it. So which would make sense. Here's our new car, but we don't want you taking the kids to some thing out of state or whatever, so.
Sure.
Can you give us some numbers on how many driver education students we have in superintendent's update this week or something? Because I was,
Sure.
In here it's talking about if we need more classes. And I don't know that we ever reach capacity in any of those.
We can certainly give you that update. I can't tell you what it is. I know it's part of the course offerings that are in the catalogs that we do.
I can't do it unless they're certified.
Are you talking?
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that, Nancy. We'll get some numbers for you. All right, so we'll bring that one back for first reading as well. We're down to item C, which is policy 2625. This is the civics education test policy. And again, this is the first time you're seeing these changes. So Jennifer, please update us on this one.
Sure. This is actually another new policy, and this reflects the mandated civics education exam that's now required pursuant to West Virginia law in 9th and 12th grade.
Do we know what happens to the results of that? Like, okay, all these seniors take this civics test.
And it just says that the results may be reported in the aggregate to the board for evaluation, and by the board, that just means local board. So we can bring it to you as a whole, but I don't know where else it goes.
We can, but
There's no
yes,
directive
yeah.
on that.
Or purpose of said test.
Jen, I guess we're back to grading stuff. Huh?
It's
I
my-
just don't know
Imagine
what
that.
the end game is here. That's-
And there's no standard or requirement with accountability measures on that.
Send a different policy.
So is this civics class, this social studies class that was mandated for 12th graders, and I've asked this in the past, I know you all have answered yes, but we still hear it from the community, that the personal finance section of that particular offering, that students still don't understand what interest is, what loans are, what credit cards are, how to get it, why you need a bank account, or what's a checkbook or reconciliation, or any of those things. So I guess I'm just asking, since we were given this opportunity to give a civics test, but none of us know what to do with the results.
Well, I mean, the personal finance standards are part of the class course offering. This sounds like old-fashioned bookkeeping to me, which I can remember having in school many, many years ago. But it doesn't look exactly that way, but it should absolutely address what you're talking about, Nancy. And I'm sure, our teachers do that. I don't know, I guess, about the results of the civics test and whether that would encompass anything there. That's not familiar to me, so I need to look into it to see what it is. But indeed, those standards are part of the civics offering, and we teach that at 12th grade.
And that's what I had wondered at the time. Are the 12th graders so checked out by the time they reach that part of the curriculum that they just kind of don't? Because even if you ask them, they're like, oh, well, they never taught us any. And I'm thinking, no, wait a minute. It's in the standards. I know your teacher stood in the front of the class and talked about some of these things. So do you have any light on this as a previous social studies teacher?
Don't believe everything students
In high
say.
school?
I mean, I saw a book once that said things my teacher never taught me. I said, we did. You were on Instagram. Well, that's it's being taught.
So the
It's being taught.
retention just isn't
I will
there.
vouch it is being
Yes,
taught.
I
Is there anywhere that it's taught before 12th grade? I know that we used to have.
We
and
did.
Again, I'm going to misremember who did it. Junior League?
We did.
Somebody
We did.
came into the middle schools and taught once a year, 6th grade.
I think you had
Personal
Westwood.
finance.
At Westwood, didn't you have a financial literacy club? Because I know a local accountant who went there as a guest speaker. And I
Probably.
don't want to mention his name on record, but.
But there was a group that used to come in
Right.
and do the financial literacy classes at the 6th grade level, and then that stopped. I don't know
And it
why.
stopped, and I don't know why either.
At one point, there was a bank.
Yes,
We
we had a.
we did used to have that.
Yes,
And
the banks used to come in.
everything sort of certainly went away with COVID, with no one coming in. But we haven't done that. That is a
Be a good
good
thing to
point. Yes, it
encourage.
would. Yes, it would be. Because I do think 12th grade is kind of late to be talking
Good
those
baby steps.
concepts. Yes.
You have
I
to
think
hear it
that's a-
16 times in between Instagram.
Well, and realistically, a lot of those students already have part-time jobs. So
Sure.
that financial
True.
literacy information would be valuable to them, I would think, but.
I can see some things at the middle school that could work there.
Superintendent D.
All right. This is policy 1623, which is section 504 ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. This is for second reading and adoption. The superintendent recommends that the board approve policy 1623 as presented this evening.
I need a motion.
I move we accept this recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion?
So did we get any feedback on any of these policies when they went out?
We
Again,
did
no
not.
feedback, my gosh. We used to go fast. Not anymore.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All in favor of policy 1623, section 504, the ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Superintendent?
We're down to E. This is policy 3123, which is section 504 ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. This is also for second reading and adoption. The superintendent recommends that the board approve policy 3123 as presented this evening.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of policy 3123, section 504 ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Superintendent?
Last policy for your approval this evening is policy 4123. This is also section 504 ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment. This is for second reading and adoption. Superintendent recommends that the board approve policy 4123 as presented.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of policy 4123, section 504, ADA prohibition against disability discrimination in employment, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Superintendent, personnel.
Okay. Board members, your personnel list, I have no changes Superintendent recommends that the board approve the personnel list as presented this evening.
Need a motion?
So moved. Oh, second.
Any questions? All in favor of the personnel list as presented signify by aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Personnel list addendum?
Yes, I do have a laundry list of things. As you know, today we opened school, so we're trying to get things cleaned up, and hence all of the changes to the addendum. So I'll move through these as slowly as I need to for you. I think you have a list as well, but these are for the record. So on page 1, line 10, please add Potts Jennifer. On page 2, line 21, add Chapman Kimberly, add long-term substitute effective 8/29/22 to the end of the 2022-23 school year. Also on page 2, line 24, add Forquer Ashley J. On page 2, line 28, add Miller Jennifer. On page 2, line 32, add Lemasters Jamie. On page 2, line 36, add Marshall Gerald. On page 2, line 38, change the effective date to 9/1/22. And on page 2, line 40, add Campbell Terry. On page 3, line 2, add Thomas Curtis. And on page 3, line 6, add Smith Pamela. With all of those additions and changes, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the personnel list addendum.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? The one is going to be, what do we have left open?
Let's see.
How's our
Here it is.
cooks situation?
You want to vote first, and then I'll give you an update?
Yeah, that'd be
You got
okay.
with
Well-
cooks?
You have-
Or do you want me
I
to
have
give
a
you that?
I just want to say, so are most of these long-term subs in the bus department, are these mostly retirees? I recognize some of these folks as retirees
Many of them are, yes, for sure.
that are coming back to
And
help
we're
us
grateful to
out.
have them, absolutely.
And so we still, so these jobs are full, they seems to the first semester they're done. So these jobs are still going to be on the posting list
Absolutely.
then for full-time? Okay. Do we have very many people in our bus CDL classes?
We actually are okay. I think the last time Tony talked to me, he had about 6
Yeah, it was
or
6
so.
or 8, I think he
Or-
said.
yeah.
But,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
but the which is great. The
Yes.
unfortunate part was, I think half of them 4 of them were going to have
A job.
full-time jobs
Right.
as soon as they graduated.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, so.
which is pretty typical.
So then the other 4 would go to the sub list,
Right.
but substitutes are slim
Right.
pickings
Yes.
Well,
in the bus area.
I think we really, I personally really appreciate these folks being willing to step up and
Absolutely.
drive for us.
Okay, all in favor of the personnel list addendum as presented signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same.
Right, and Bob did want to share with you this evening his current up-to-date numbers as far as the folks that have left us. We have 23 retirements, 73 resignations, and we have 15 folks starting the year on a leave of absence, and presently posted positions, which I think is really good. And I thank Jennifer and Bob for as hard as they've worked to get these things cleaned up for us, to get the school year started. I know many school systems, or neighboring school systems, have announced that they have 40 and 50 vacancies when they open school. We have a total of 7 that we have not, that we don't have something other than a day-to-day sub in right now. So we have 2 high school positions. Neither one of those is a classroom content area position. We have 1 middle school position, which is not a content position, and we have 4 elementary school positions, and I believe all 4 are related to special education.
Great.
Excellent report.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Nothing else for the good of order. I'll go to the order. We're adjourned.
Thank you,
Next
board
board
members.
meeting is 2 weeks from now.